Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and yesterday my wife and I had to go to the hardware store, and we happened to drive by the west end of the Queen Creek Wash, which is right next to my favorite flying park, and it was filled to the brim. I've never seen it so full, so I thought, boy, I got to get this on video. Only it was like midday here in Arizona, and the temperature was a little too high, so I thought, all right, well, I'll wait until tomorrow. But we've had so many monsoon storms and so much rain that we've broken all records down here for amount of precipitation. So I decided, okay, I'll just go in the morning. And so we're headed out to take a look at the Queen Creek Wash and how full it might be this morning. Now, the path that we're going to take is starting from the lower right and goes up to the upper left, and that little squiggly part up there at the top, that's where I go along next to the Queen Creek Wash. So that's our destination, and then I'll take the drone off and we'll take a look at what's going on out there. So here we are, and by the way, I can tell right now that it's gone down a lot since yesterday. But anyway, that's where it comes through, and it really comes through heavy when it's full, when there's a lot of rain. Or this little inset here, if you can see me down there, that's the size I am compared to that where the water comes through. And then the inset down at the bottom is a picture I took when the snow was melting on the mountains and it was just flowing in. So you can see how small I am compared to the size of this place. So anyway, that's the place where I was standing down there by those rocks, and yesterday that would have been having water run just as fast as was in that little insert. And then this is looking further upstream. And by the way, we passed way up there at the end of that little channel. There was water running down there and filling up that first wash, and then it overflows and comes down and fills this wash. Now this is going back the other way and looking down at the same area there where I had been standing. So we're going to go ahead and take a trip on down through here. And I promised a story. In the last few videos, I've been relaying my experiences with the appearance of angels, or just knowing that they were there. So I've saved the best to the last, and so I'll tell you this one. I've only got 3 stories about angels that I can tell, which is pretty good for a man's life. So anyway, I'll start out with, first of all, if you go to Luke chapter 16, Jesus tells a story, and he says there was a certain rich man. Now, when he's talking about a certain rich man, this is not a parable. This is a true story that happened, and Jesus knew about it. And then he said, and there was a certain poor beggar that sat in front of his gate and begged. And so and his name, he told us his name was Lazarus. And so when Lazarus, oh, by the way, there's a couple of cranes standing there next to the water, those white specks. Anyway, so the Bible says, or Jesus said, when the rich man, when Lazarus died, the angels carried him to heaven. And that's kind of an important part of the story. And then he said, when the rich man died, he was buried, and then he was in torment in hell. So, and later on in the story, he points out that the rich man was begging for one drop of water on his tongue, and he wanted to know if Lazarus could bring it to him, which was totally impossible. But anyway, so that's the setting from my experience I'm going to share with you. My wife's parents lived in Lewiston, Idaho, and we lived in Pasco, Washington, and it's about 100 miles apart. It takes about 1 hour to fly, and I used to fly my mother-in-law back and forth in my little 2-seater to come visit us, and then I'd take her home. She wouldn't fly. She and her husband wouldn't fly, and until when he passed away, well, she was glad to fly. So I think he was afraid to fly with me, most likely. So anyway, now we're getting to the end of the wash where we drove by yesterday, and you can see the high water mark along the right side there. I think it's gone down about 3, maybe 4 feet since we drove by, because it looked like it was right up at the top. And there's another view down there. You can see the high water mark. So it's gone down about 3 or 4 feet overnight, and it drains on under the highway there and on down through the creek. Well, anyway, so my mother-in-law and I, we became pretty good friends, just spending time flying back and forth. And she was a sweet lady. And so eventually she got old enough that she had to be in a rest home. And then eventually, there you can see the high water mark along that little cliff there. Eventually she got in bad enough condition that they put her in the rest home. They put her in a nursing area where she had nurse care 24 hours a day. Well, what I used to do when she was up and around, I would take my little accordion down and visit, and then walk around in the hallway playing hymns, and all the people would come out of their rooms, and they'd follow me around, and I'd get over to, I'd just lead them over to to Grandma's room there, and then I'd stand in there and play, and all these people would circle around, and she loved it, you know. So anyway, she was bedridden for maybe almost a month, and the first time I went down to see her when she was bedridden, I went around the bed and hugged her, and she looked at me and she said, Did you bring your, and I think she meant to ask about the accordion, because she loved to have those people come to her room. But that's all she could say, and then she kind of went back into the state she was in. And so then the next time, we knew she was about to go, and she'd been laying there for, at least a week without moving. She was still alive, but she wasn't moving. She was just laying there, and so, I mean, she was still alive and everything. So we wanted to be there with her, and there were several of us in the room. It was a fairly large room, and on the day that she passed away, I was sitting in a chair across the room from her bed, looking at the side of her bed, and she hadn't moved now. She'd just been laying there. And all of a sudden, she raised up in bed, sat up straight, eyes wide open, with her arms stretched upward, and her eyes looking up at the corner in the ceiling, and she just all of a sudden fell over backwards. Now, that was an amazing surprise, because we had been with her and she hadn't moved, and then all of a sudden she sits up, her eyes are wide open, and her arms are stretched out. So I don't know what she saw, or if the angels actually came and took her out of the bed and took her to heaven. I don't know, but I guarantee you that's what happened. So anyway, there goes one of those down in the Lord, just below the center of the screen. There goes one of those cranes, and we'll follow it along. I'm headed up to land my drone, and we'll just watch the crane land. So anyway, that's my story. I want to thank you for watching my video, and God bless.